Hi, I'm Jennifer with True North Leatherworks, and today I'm going to show you how to stitch this luggage tag. Now this is a fun luggage tag that has several parts to work around, but while it's more complicated and that puts it into the hard category of the kits that I offer, it's also pretty cool to see a project like this come together. And to realize that you can make something like this with your own two hands. Now, as you just saw, there's a flap that can be snapped around to cover your contact information so random people walking past your suitcase don't see your information. And then in the back, you can put your own card with whatever contact information you want to include in it. I didn't include that because I felt it was better to leave that up to you guys. And then with the buckle on the strap, it's easy to adjust the length and put it on and off your suitcase. And luggage tags have a variety of uses, both on checked bags, your carry-on, your child's backpack even. I've seen many kids with their backpacks with a luggage tag attached to it, even musical instruments. So this luggage tag has myriad uses. So it makes a handy, useful gift if you're making it for somebody or just want a handy project for yourself. So when you open up the kit, you'll find, like I said, this one has a lot of moving parts. Well, some moving, some not so much. There's a lot of parts in this one though. And that's why it's in the hard category of my kits. First up, we have the two main pieces of leather, and I do package them snapped together. That's just for convenience, for making them fit in the bag. As you can see, we have the rivet on this side and the snap on this side that have been installed already, and you can see all the little stitch holes already punched in there, so you don't have to worry about how you're going to push a needle through leather, which, by the way, doesn't work very well by itself, especially when you have a lot of stitching. You'll also have this piece of clear plastic that has the stitching holes punched in the edges as well. All the stitch holes match up, so you can stitch the body pieces with the plastic to keep your contact information safe and dry. And because it's leather, this is also long-lasting. Leather stands up to a lot of different things. So those are the main pieces. We also have this smaller piece that goes here on the top. So that small piece reinforces the top of our tag and has the hole where our adjustable strap goes through. And of course this strap will attach your luggage tag to your suitcase, your backpack, your carry-on, whatever type of bag you might need it for. Also in the kit, you'll find a needle with a piece of washi tape attached, and that is so that it does not get lost, because you do not want to find a needle with your foot because it landed on the ground somewhere and you couldn't figure out where exactly it was until you stepped on it. Of course, you take the washi tape off when you thread your needle, but at that point you don't need it anymore anyway. Then you will also have two loops of thread. The smaller one will be either white or light gray. You can tell it's shorter, there's not as much thread. This is actually for basting our leather pieces and our plastic all together so that all your stitch holes match up. If we didn't baste everything together, it'd be a lot harder to actually complete this project and have it look good, because you'd be like, okay, am I in the right spot? It'd be very frustrating. Trying to keep all these little holes lined up properly. Once you get into the nitty-gritty of trying to put it together, it's not as easy as you might think it would be. So our basting thread will help us keep everything lined up and make this project a whole lot easier. And if you've never heard of basting, don't worry, I'll walk you through step by step how to do this. It takes just a couple minutes and it really makes this project a whole lot easier. Once we've got our basting threads in place, Then we will be ready to thread our needle with our other thread and our bigger loop of thread and actually get our project stitched together. So let's get started. So here we have our luggage tag. When you open up the bag, we have several pieces. So make sure you get them all. Here are the two main pieces of the tag, the snap unsnaps. The rivet does not. You will be stitching these pieces together, so keeping it snapped is actually not a bad idea. This is a piece of plastic that you stitch in here, and then that way it covers up your contact information, which you slide in through here. So we'll stitch it together like this, in these layers. And then we'll insert our strap. We have our needle. Take the washi tape off. That is just there so that you can easily find your needle. So you don't need to hang on to that. And then you'll have two pieces of thread. So the larger looped up thread will be the one that you're actually stitching with. And then the smaller one, which should be white or gray, I believe. I think I tried to keep it that way so you would know that it's different. This is actually for basting stitches. Because we have multiple layers and they don't necessarily want to stay in place very easily, we're going to baste everything in place before we begin stitching. And that'll just make sure that everything goes as smoothly as possible when we're actually stitching. So you want to be able to get it right the first time and not realize that, oh, I missed this layer, and then have to go back and fix it. First off, we're going to start with our needle and thread, and we're going to thread our needle. And then you're going to poke the tip of your needle through your thread 2 times, so it looks like that. And then you slide it down the needle and pull the long piece of thread, and then that locks your thread on your needle. So if you look here, because a big part of this is making sure that our stitches, our holes are all lined up, we're going to make sure that right now that is the case. So what I did was, if you look at your seam, you can see that it turns, your stitch holes turn the corner. So I just picked the first stitch on this long straightaway, and then I made sure that everything that I went through my plastic, my other piece, all on the same hole as well. Then we're going to count over, because it doesn't really matter how many, just as long as it's the same number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oops. 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so then I'm going to pull my thread through again. Okay, so it's starting to behave itself. I'm still have some more to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So at this point, I shouldn't need to count all of them, but let's double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. We got through the plastic okay. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So, as you can see here, it doesn't look like much and it doesn't need to, but you can see it's already keeping everything more in place, so it's not flopping around quite so much. But we're going to continue up the sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you find that your needle doesn't want to go through a hole, if you poke it from the front, makes it easier to find it from the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that one. Two, 3, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. 1, 2, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you might think that this is a waste of time, but I really feel like it makes it a lot easier to get all the pieces in the right place. So I really recommend taking the time to do this. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Okay, so now at this point we need to add this in. When you're doing this, we want to make sure that this piece is going over the plastic, because when you put in your card with your information, it's going to go here, so that when you open the flap, the plastic keeps the card in place and everything's lined up properly. Okay, so we're going to look at this and see we've got some overlap. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we overlap by 3 right here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, but we also want to get this last hole. So this is where keeping your count is really good. So we want to make sure that these last two holes on this piece are overlapping with the first 2 holes right there. So that should be right here. So I'm going to do the last hole on this this piece. It should also be the last hole on the plastic piece. Now you do need to be careful on the plastic. It's not thick plastic. You see that that last hole next to the edge of the plastic was starting to tear a little bit because it's a little rough with it. There we go. So now we have, you can see that we have our edges all lined up. Okay, and we're going to continue around. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. So now this is the last tricky part. I'm going to make sure that this one is lined up properly also. Just remember that this last hole is the second to last hole on this piece, that smaller piece, and the last hole in the plastic. And 1, 2, 3, run down from the edge. So I'm keeping my tail, my thread pulled snugly. Okay. We're going to... Okay, so at this point you don't really need to be counting, because this is just, everything's fairly well held in. If you want to keep counting to make sure you're getting the right number of spaces, you can definitely do that. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so here we have our basted luggage tag, and you can see how much easier this is going to be to work with than what we had before. Okay, so like I said, definitely worth the time to do this. So now we're gonna cut our basting thread off of our needle. We're going to unloop our other thread. Now this is one long piece of thread. We're going to thread it just like we did with the basting thread. So once we get it on the thread in the needle, we're going to poke the edge, the tip of our needle through our thread twice and lock it in place. So with basting, you remove it as you stitch along. If you baste something and then use a machine, you might even be able to leave it in until after. But we're going to remove it as we go along. So I just used my scissors, which you need to trim your threads at the end anyway. And I cut that loop, that stitch that was there, because that's where we're going to start. And the reason I'm having us start there is then when you put your strap on, the strap will mostly cover up where you start and end. So if you get a little messy with your threads and melting them down, it doesn't matter because it's mostly covered by the strap. So that's why I have a start here, even though our basting started down here. I thought about starting the basting here, but it's a lot harder to keep it all in place. So that's why we started the basting here and our actual stitching here. So we're going to start here, 1, 2, 3 from the little join, a little angle there. So we're going to go in. So I'm starting on this side. I'm having this be my back side. It doesn't really matter which side's your back side on this particular project. So I'm going to hold my tail, about 1.5 inches or so of a tail. So sandwich that between. Then I'm just going to find the next stitch hole on the back and come through to the front. Like I said, with the basting threads in place, that makes this so much easier. You're not wondering, am I in the right spot? Am I not? And it makes it easier to go through both layers a lot quicker as well. Now the luggage tag I did categorize as a hard project because of all the layers and trying to keep them all straight, as well as doing the basting as part of it. This is definitely a lot more challenging than the easy projects or even the medium difficulty projects. Okay, and this is a project that you want to make sure you're paying attention to detail, not skipping holes or crossing over the edge of the leather like this. Make sure that you're always going through front to back, back to front, so that your stitches look nice and even and neat. And as you go along, I like to check and see, okay, is everything looking neat and snug? Can you see space between my layers? Because if you can do that, that means you're too loose. So you should stop and take the tip of your needle and kind of pull on that and work your way closer to where your thread is that you're using. And that'll help you tighten up when you have loose stitches. You want to catch that and fix it as soon as you can. If you catch it later on, after you've done quite a bit of stitching, you can still fix it. It's just a lot more challenging and annoying. So in the interest of not getting annoyed, just check your stitches every couple of... I think I keep getting dog hair in my stitches. That's annoying. If you have dogs or cats in the house, you might end up pulling the hair out of your stitching. Okay, so you can see that I have made it this far, and so I'm up here on another basting piece. I'm actually just going to pull it out and I'm going to leave it here. Okay, I don't want to go and pull out all of my basting stitches. I only want to pull out what is in the way of me moving forward immediately. And I'll adjust it again in a minute when I get down to the next spot where the basting thread comes through. Okay, so here we are, we're up to this. Okay, so our small piece is firmly stitched to this piece, so we don't have to worry about this. We're going to just take this hole out because we still have to worry about our plastic and this piece. So again, we're only doing one stitch removal. We're going to cross the edge here. So you can see we have the overlap. We actually have 4 layers. because we have 3 of leather and then 1 of plastic. So again, I'm still making sure that my stitches are snug. It'd be awfully difficult to do it too tight, and you have this many layers right here. And you can see as I'm pushing the needle through, I'm really not having to fight to find the holes because I did the basting and lined everything up already. So it's actually making it a lot easier. I do have to do a little bit of searching still right there. But overall, if I was doing this without those basting stitches, it would be a much more difficult project. And it doesn't need to be. So now that I've come to this one, I'm pulling that out. Oops, and I keep bumping the camera. So you just gradually pull out your basting threads as you reach them. That way everything still stays in place and it makes the whole thing a lot easier. Okay, so we're just going to continue around. So I'll probably be speeding up the video. And you can watch me stitch in 4x speed or whatever. If you're having trouble getting your needle through the hole, you can poke it through from the other direction. That usually helps. One thing you can see that I'm doing is that as I put in each stitch, I tend to turn it over and over. I don't do that on all projects, but this one's small enough that it's easy to do that. That way I'm always seeing what my stitches are doing as each one goes in. Okay, so I'm going to unsnap that, and then I'm going to hang on to my tail here because I don't want to lose that, and then pull out that stitch. And just to keep it out of the way, I'm going to do a quick knot there. Not a tight knot because I'll need to take some of it out in a minute, but now I shouldn't get that in the way. But see here, you can see there's our plastic, the flap that covers it so people can't see your information right off. And now we're up to the next basting stitch, and you can see that that knot that I tied there, it's already almost undone. Okay, I'm gonna pull this way. I still want to keep this stitch in, but I also want this thread out of the way, so that should do it. Now of course you could cut the threads in between each, but I like to just pull them because then, like I said, that makes it easier for that to remain in place. Or to this basting stitch. So I'm gonna pull that completely out, and just gonna throw that away. We don't need that anymore. Okay, so you can see I'm more than halfway around. So we're just gonna continue on stitching. Okay, and here you can see my basting stitches are loosening up, and it's almost completely pulled out there. That's not a disaster if it does, but at the same time, I've got extra thread here, so I'm actually going to carefully pull it this way, then still gonna have to be careful. There we go. So I didn't lose my tiny little tail I had there. Okay, so now I've snugged this up a little bit more. Okay, you see my plastic is still in place. Okay, so here I'm getting up to where we have all that overlapping again. So this is where you really want to pay attention to detail. Make sure that you're catching all of your layers. There we go. Okay, we can undo that. So now, coming off of the overlap there. Okay. And we are almost back to where we started. Actually, we don't need to leave this one in there any longer since we have this. This small stretch isn't going to go anywhere at this point. Okay. So we're just about done with one stitching around. I hope you can see how the basting really made this a much less frustrating project than it could have been. When I put together new kits and decide which ones to include in the lineup, potential ones get made and stitched several times as I sit down and figure out, okay, will this work to add to the kits that I offer? And as I stitch them, I try to consider different things different issues that might pop up as people are stitching. So, yes, it was as I was stitching it that I realized, you know, I could really use something to keep everything in all lined up properly, which you can see we've got right here. And that's what the basting stitches helped with. It's looking good. You can see we're back to where we started. So what we're gonna do, if we continue going this way, we're just gonna end up stitching in the same spots that we already stitched. So we need to turn around and go back the way we came, which will allow us to fill in the blanks, because we want to have it be a nice solid line of stitching. So first, we're going to hang on to our tail, pull it out of the way, and then we're going to put our needle into that same hole. Okay, so that gives us that complete line of stitches there. And then if you turn it over and look here, if we went here, then like I said, that would continue just the way we went. So instead of going that way, we're going to go this way. Okay. You do want to try not to overlap your threads too much, like cutting through your stitch. I didn't do a very good job on that one right there. I will say that if you do 2 needle stitching, you usually have a more consistent and even seam, because you're able to control how the stitches look a lot better when you're using 2 needles. But you also need a stitching pony if you're using 2 needles. And I'm sorry, but I cannot include a stitching pony in your kit. That's just not cost effective for me. However, if you are interested in learning how to stitch using the double needle method, I do have my Leatherwork 101 course that I offer. And for that, with that course, I send all the tools and materials needed for the practice exercises and projects Everything you need comes straight to your door, except for a lighter, because I can't send those in the mail. I'd get in a lot of trouble. But it's an easy way to try out leatherworking, learn more about it, without you having to wonder, okay, do I have the right tools? Do I have the right leather? Definitely the leather would be a big challenge to get the right amounts of the different styles that you would need. I generally buy my leather by the side, which usually is 20 to 25 square feet of leather, and it can be $100, $150, $200 or more, depending on the type of leather and the quality of it. So that really doesn't work when you need leather for multiple projects. So I've taken that hassle and stress out of the equation. Like I said, everything comes straight to your door, and then I have online video tutorials that walk you through each practice exercise and project. I teach a skill for the practice exercise, and then we use that and other previously learned skills in the project for that lesson. Now this course is for teenagers and above. I've had adults take the class, and adults are more than welcome to enroll. I will say though that if your kiddo is in the 11 and 12 year old range, I would hold off a little bit, unless they are very accustomed to hammering and really using their hands and stuff. I have taught 11 and 12 year olds different projects with leatherworking, and they do tend to struggle more. And my theory on that is that they just don't have the muscles and the hand-eye coordination that is really needed for leatherworking. If we're doing all this by hand, then we are hammering on tools to make holes, whether it's for something like this or to install hardware. And then we are hammering on the hardware to install that as well. So that's snaps and rivets and other things. So that requires a lot of muscle, patience, good hand-eye coordination, and sometimes those younger kids on the younger range of it just don't quite have it yet. And I would much rather that your child have a good experience with leatherworking than to try it out and get super frustrated because it's just not working, and then never want to go near leatherworking again. But if you wait a couple years, they'll be better able to do all the hammering and everything else involved, and they'll have a good experience. And since I like leatherworking, I want everybody else to have a good experience too. So, yes. I have had parents ask, oh, how about my 9 or 10 year old? I'm like, let's just wait. And every year I do add to my project lineup, my kits that I have available. I'm always looking for new projects to include. If you have a suggestion of a kit that you would like to see me include in my lineup, shoot me an email and let me know. And if I use your idea, then I will send you a gift card to my shop. So I do want to make sure that the projects I offer are useful. That's something that I really try hard for, and I think that all of my projects do that. The one that's probably the furthest away is my origami crane. That one's not as useful as my other projects, but an origami crane made out of leather is just like the coolest. I think I have a soft spot in my heart for origami cranes because that was the first origami I learned, was how to make the crane with the flapping wings when you pull on its tail. Now, the wings do not flap if you pull on the tail of my leather origami crane, but it is a very cool project, I think. But in any case, I try to make sure that the rest of my kits can be used and not just sat on a shelf and gathering dust and never used or looked at or anything like that. Leather is meant to be used. Okay, and you can see I'm just continuing to stitch. Because we've got everything all lined up already, it goes quite smoothly. You know, we've gone through each and every hole, so it's even faster than going through it with the basting stitches. So I'm unsnapping the flap again so I can continue on. Remember to again be checking your stitches. Make sure they're not too loose, not too tight, that they look as even as possible. If you make a mistake, it's better to catch it earlier rather than later. It's a lot easier to fix if you catch it earlier in the process. Ask me how I know. But if you do run into an instance where you make an irreparable mistake and you need more thread because you just cannot salvage it, reach out to me by email and I'll take care of you. Snap this back up out of the way. There we go. And I have to say, I really like this color. It's quite a saturated color, but it's just fun. Oh, and this does take bit of time to do all the stitching, so if you find yourself running out of time or losing interest or whatever, just set it aside and come back to it another day. Even though I do enjoy leatherworking and sewing, there are still times when it's like, okay, now's not the time for it. My brain needs other stimulation. Usually it's a book. Although time is an issue as well if you only have so much time available. Sometimes you need to not try to finish it in one go round. And that's definitely the case with the pencil roll, which is another of my new projects this year. That one definitely takes a chunk of time. My 11-year-old was working on that one. I think, was it over 3 days? I think he worked on it in a couple different sessions over 3 different days. Like he would work on it 2 or 3 times a day. A little bit here, a little bit there. But he couldn't just sit down and stitch it all. And honestly, I'm right there with him because that one is a lot of stitching. It looks cool when you're done, but it's definitely not a half-hour project. Okay, so you can see we are just about done. I'm here on my overlapping piece. Again, make sure that you're keeping your stitches on the snug side so everything's secure. So continue. Okay, so you can see we only have one stitch on each side left. Okay, so if you look at this side's all filled in, but then we have this side that is not quite. So we are going to do a touch of back stitching. Okay, because see now we're filled in, we're going to go backwards. So this is the hole that we were in, and we're going to go back one, hence back stitching. And that'll just kind of lock it in place, and we don't need to knot it. We're going to take our scissors and trim pretty short. I usually go about the length of the stitch holes to the edge of the leather. If you go too long, then you end up with a big glob when you melt the threads down. Because the longer the thread, the more that needs to be melted. Okay, and hold your lighter at parallel. You don't want to hold it at a steeper angle because that can burn your leather or your thread. And also, please make sure that you have appropriate adult supervision when using a lighter. Don't burn yourself, don't burn your project, don't burn your house down. That'd be bad. Okay, so once you have appropriate adult supervision, take your lighter. And we're not gonna try to do this super fast. Okay. Watching it melt, and then use the end of my lighter to smush it down. I'm just gonna do a little bit more, just to make sure it looks good. Okay, so you can see those two little black blobs where you melted your thread, and that wasn't very big threads. I probably could have gone a little bit shorter even. But anyway, but that is also why we started and stopped here, because like I said, our little strap here can go over and it'll mostly cover it. Oops. Tape. I'm gonna take that little plastic thing off the tongue of the buckle. I think it's called a tongue, isn't it? Okay, there we go. Okay, so then this is the strap that you would use to attach it to your suitcase. And there you go. You can't see where you really started, really. You can flip your strap around if you want, depending on your feelings of which one is front or back, and whether it really matters. Sometimes the brain likes to overthink things. There we go. So, and there you have it. Like I said, you can put in your own information right here, and then you can cover it up here so it's not easy to be seen. I hope you had fun with this project, and have a good day.